I was standing in front of my bedroom mirror, feeling more beautiful than I had in months, when my boyfriend walked in and told me that if I walked out the door in that outfit, we were officially over. But looking back now, I realized that the clothes weren't the problem, he was. I had spent an hour getting ready for my best friend's engagement party, wearing a modest but elegant silk dress that reached my knees, yet the look of pure disgust on his face made me feel like I was wearing something scandalous. He didn't just ask me to change, he demanded it, claiming that my choice of clothing was a sign of disrespect to him and our relationship. And it made me wonder, am I the one being unreasonable here? Or is this the behavior of someone who wants to own me rather than love me? This wasn't just a petty argument about fashion. It was a battle for my own autonomy, and the ultimatum he threw at me felt like a physical blow to the stomach. I want you to listen to every detail of what happened that night and the weeks leading up to it. And then tell me honestly, was I wrong for standing my ground, or would you have walked away a lot sooner than I did? To understand how we got to that moment, I have to go back to the beginning of my relationship with Mark. When we first met 3 years ago, he was the definition of a perfect gentleman. He was attentive, he complimented my style, and he seemed to love my confidence. I've always been someone who enjoys fashion. It's how I express myself, a creative outlet that makes me feel powerful. I work in a high-stress professional environment during the day where I have to wear boring, neutral suits, so when I go out on the weekends, I like to feel like myself again. For the first 6 months, everything was a dream. He would tell me I looked beautiful in everything I wore. But slowly, almost so subtly that I didn't notice it at first, Mark started making suggestions that felt like gentle advice but were actually the seeds of control. It started with a comment about a pair of heels being too high for a casual dinner, or a shirt being a little too bright for a simple coffee date. He'd say things like, "Honey, you're so naturally pretty. You don't need all that flair," or, "I just think that skirt might give people the wrong idea about you." I thought he was just looking out for me, or maybe he had a more conservative taste that I should respect out of love. I loved him, so I started subconsciously filtering my wardrobe. I'd pick something out, think of his possible reaction, and put it back. I didn't realize it then, but I was slowly erasing the parts of myself that made me feel vibrant just to keep the peace in a relationship that was becoming a cage. By the second year, the suggestions turned into full-blown rules. If we were going to a bar with his friends, he'd tell me my jeans were too tight, and that I was inviting the wrong kind of attention. He would actually make me turn around so he could inspect me from every angle before we left the apartment. If he didn't approve, we weren't leaving. It became an exhausting ritual. I started dreading going out. I stopped buying the clothes I liked because I knew the price of wearing them would be a 3-hour lecture on modesty and respect. He started using phrases like, "I just want you all to myself," or "I don't want other guys looking at what's mine." At the time, I mistook his jealousy for passion. I thought it meant he valued me. But the reality was that he viewed me as a possession, a piece of property that needed to be covered up and hidden away. My closet, which used to be full of color and personality, became a collection of oversized sweaters and long skirts. I felt my spark fading. I was becoming a shadow of the woman I used to be. And the worst part was that I was doing it to myself just to avoid his temper. He would even go through my laundry and make snide remarks about my undergarments, asking who I was trying to impress. The isolation was creeping in too. He'd suggest I stay home more because the world out there is too dangerous for someone as naive as you. He was building a wall around me, brick by brick, and I was helping him by staying silent. I remember one specific incident about a year ago. We were invited to his company's summer picnic. It was a beautiful, hot day, and I had bought a simple, knee-length sundress with sunflowers on it. It was about as innocent as a dress could be. But when I put it on, Mark spent 20 minutes explaining to me how the straps were too thin, and how his boss might think I was unprofessional because of how much of my shoulders were showing. I argued back then, pointing out that it was a picnic, not a board meeting. But the way he looked at me, with such disappointment, as if I had personally insulted his honor, made me cave. I ended up wearing a heavy cardigan over the dress in 90-degree heat. I was sweating uncomfortable and miserable the entire day, while Mark walked around with a smug smile because I had listened. That was the pattern. He would set a ridiculous standard, I would resist, he would make me feel like a bad person, and I would eventually submit just to stop the fighting. It wasn't just about the heat or the fabric. It was about the slow death of my will. I started avoiding my friends because I didn't want them to see what I was becoming. I didn't want them to see me constantly checking with my boyfriend to see if my outfit was allowed. This engagement party for my best friend Sarah was supposed to be a turning point for me. Sarah had been my rock through everything, and she had noticed how much I had changed. She had seen me go from the girl who loved glitter and bold colors to a woman who wore mostly beige and gray. During a lunch date a few weeks prior, she grabbed my hands and said, "I miss the girl who used to wear emerald green and walk like she owned the room. You look like you're trying to disappear lately. Is everything okay with Mark?" I lied and said I was just tired, but that night, I couldn't sleep. Her words kept echoing in my head. I realized I had been disappearing. So without telling Mark, I went out and bought a dress. It was a beautiful emerald green silk wrap dress. The kind of dress that makes you stand up a little straighter. It wasn't short, it wasn't tight, and it didn't show much skin, but it was elegant and it made me feel like me again. I hid the shopping bag in the back of my closet for 2 weeks, feeling a mix of excitement and absolute terror. Every time he walked near that closet, my heart would skip a beat. I felt like a criminal hiding evidence, which is a pathetic way to feel in your own home. I practiced my makeup in secret when he was at work, trying to remember how to wing my eyeliner just right. I was preparing for a battle I didn't even want to admit was coming. I spent hours looking at old photos of myself, trying to reconnect with that confident girl. When the day of the party finally arrived, Mark was in a foul mood from the start. He was complaining about having to go out at all, saying we should just stay home and watch a movie because he was tired from work. I knew he was trying to isolate me again, especially since Sarah had always been vocal about her dislike for his controlling ways. He knew Sarah would encourage me to be myself, and that was a threat to him. While he was in the shower, I took the green dress out and put it on. I did my hair in soft waves and applied a classic red lipstick. When I looked in the mirror, I actually recognized the woman looking back at me for the first time in years. I felt a surge of adrenaline that made my fingers tremble. I was terrified, but for the first time, the excitement of being myself was stronger than the fear of his reaction. But then the bathroom door opened. Mark walked out, drying his hair, and his eyes landed on me. The air in the room instantly turned cold. He didn't say a word at first. He just stared at me with a look of pure, unadulterated disgust, as if I had done something truly shameful. Then came the words that broke everything. He told me the neckline was disgraceful, and that the slit in the skirt made me look cheap. He said, "If you think you're walking out of this house looking like a woman who's looking for her next mistake, you've got another thing coming. You have 5 minutes to take that off and put on those black trousers and the gray sweater, or we are done. I'm not kidding, I will leave you tonight." The silence that followed his ultimatum was deafening. I looked at him and saw a stranger. I saw someone who didn't care about my happiness or how confident I felt. He only cared about his own perceived reputation and his need to dominate my choices. I started thinking about all the other times I had given in. I remembered the time we were supposed to go to my cousin's wedding, and I ended up wearing a dress that looked like a potato sack because he said my original choice was too distracting. I remembered the time he made me delete photos from my Instagram because I was smiling too much at the camera. It wasn't just about the clothes anymore. It was about the fact that I had become a shell of a person, constantly seeking validation from a man who used his love as a weapon. I realized that if I changed my dress today, I would be changing my soul tomorrow. I would be telling him that his insecurity was more important than my dignity. I looked at the 5-minute timer he had actually started on his phone, and a wave of nausea hit me. He was literally timing my submission. He stood there, arms crossed, staring at the digital numbers counting down, waiting for me to break. He was so sure I would crumble because I always had before. So that's the situation I was in, standing in my own bedroom being threatened with a breakup over a piece of silk while a digital timer ticked down my freedom. And I had to make a choice right then and there. Before I tell you what I did next, and how this whole night ended in a way he never expected, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Do you think there is ever a point where a partner's concern about your clothing is valid? Or is it always a sign of a toxic, controlling personality? Would you have changed the dress just to get through the night? Or would you have called his bluff knowing it could end a 3-year relationship? Does a boyfriend ever have the right to set boundaries on what his girlfriend wears? Or is that just a nice word for abuse? I really want to know your thoughts because at that moment, I felt like the loneliest person in the world, caught between the person I loved and the person I wanted to be. I looked Mark straight in the eyes, my heart thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. And I told him that I wasn't changing. I said it calmly, which I think surprised him more than if I had screamed. I told him that I loved this dress, I felt beautiful in it. And if he was so insecure that a piece of fabric threatened his ego, then maybe he was right. Maybe we should be over. His jaw literally dropped. He actually checked his phone to see if the timer was still running, as if he couldn't believe I was defying him. When he realized I wasn't budging, his gentleman facade completely evaporated. He started shouting, calling me names I won't repeat, and telling me I was being delusional and disrespectful. He said I was throwing away 3 years for a stupid green rag. I told him I wasn't throwing it away for a dress. I was throwing it away because I finally realized he didn't actually love me. He loved the version of me he could control. He tried to grab my arm to pull me toward the closet, but I stepped back and told him if he touched me, I'd call the police. That stopped him cold. He grabbed his keys, called me a few more choice names, and slammed the bedroom door so hard a mirror on the wall cracked. I heard the front door slam, and then silence. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, the adrenaline slowly leaving my body. My hands were shaking, but I didn't feel the urge to cry. I felt an incredible sense of relief. I looked at the cracked mirror and realized it was a metaphor for our relationship, broken beyond repair. I didn't let the night end there though. I touched up my lipstick, grabbed my purse, and called an Uber. I went to that party alone. When I walked into the venue, the lights were glowing and the music was playing. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel like I was hiding. Sarah saw me from across the room, and her face lit up. She ran over and hugged me, whispering, "You're back. You're finally back." I spent the night surrounded by people who loved me for who I was, not for how well I could follow orders. I danced until my feet ached. I laughed until my stomach hurt, and I didn't check my phone a single time. I even met a few new people and realized that I could hold a conversation without constantly looking over my shoulder to see if Mark approved of the way I was talking. I felt like I was waking up from a long, gray coma. While I was at the party, Mark was busy. He had gone from the angry, "I'm leaving you" phase to the "I'm so worried about you" manipulation phase. When I finally checked my phone in the Uber on the way home, I had 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. They started with insults, then moved to "Where are you? Who are you with?" Then to "I'm sorry, I was just stressed, come home and let's talk," and finally back to "You're a selfish person for doing this to us." He even sent a photo of himself crying on our bed. It was like watching a psychological breakdown in text form. When I walked through my front door at 2 a.m., the lights were all on. He was sitting at the kitchen table, looking like he had been through a war. He started to launch into a speech about how we need to work on our issues, but I cut him off. I told him there was no we anymore. I had already decided. I told him he had until tomorrow morning to get his essentials, and that I'd have the rest of his stuff delivered to his brother's house. He tried to argue, saying it was his apartment too, but I reminded him that my name was the only one on the lease, and that I had been paying the majority of the rent while he found himself. The confrontation that followed lasted until the sun came up. He tried every manipulation tactic in the book. He tried to claim he was protecting me from the male gaze. He tried to blame his behavior on his father's infidelity, saying it made him sensitive. He even tried to suggest that I was the one who was abusive for abandoning him in his time of need. He told me I was being influenced by Sarah, and that she was trying to destroy our love. I just laughed. For the first time, his words had no power over me. Every time he tried to pull me back in, I just looked down at my emerald green dress and remembered how good it felt to feel like myself. I didn't yield an inch. By 7 a.m., he finally realized I was serious. He packed a suitcase, still muttering under his breath about how I'd regret this and how no other man would put up with my attitude. When the door finally closed behind him, I didn't just feel happy, I felt safe. I spent the next few days changing the locks, blocking his number, and reaching out to a therapist. I realized I had been living in a state of low-level trauma for years, and it was going to take time to heal. The aftermath was a bit of a social media storm. He tried to tell everyone that I had a breakdown and was acting out because of some imaginary mental health crisis. He even reached out to my parents, telling them I was putting myself in danger and that he was heartbroken. Thankfully, I had already spoken to them. I told them the truth about the rules, the timers, the insults, and the control. My parents were horrified. They had no idea. Sarah and my other friends rallied around me, creating a shield against his attempts to crawl back into my life. One of his friends even reached out to me privately to apologize for Mark's behavior, admitting that they had seen him be controlling before, but didn't know how to intervene. I realized then that everyone saw it but me. It's been 6 months now, and I am a completely different person. I no longer look in the mirror and wonder if someone else will approve of what I see. I dress for myself, I live for myself, and I have never been happier. I've started a style journal, where I document my outfits and how they make me feel, reclaiming the joy that he tried to steal from me. I even went back to the store and bought 2 more dresses in different shades of green. I recently saw Mark at a distance in a coffee shop. He was with a new girl. She was wearing a baggy, oversized gray hoodie, and looked down at her feet the whole time while he talked at her. My heart broke for her. I wanted to run over and tell her to get out, to put on her favorite dress and run, but I knew from experience that she had to find that strength herself. All I could do was be grateful that I wasn't that girl anymore. I've learned that a relationship should be a partnership, not a prison. If someone truly loves you, they want you to be the most vibrant, confident version of yourself. They don't try to dim your light, so they can feel more powerful in the dark. I am now dating someone new, someone who actually encourages me to wear what I want. The first time he saw me in a bold outfit, he didn't ask me to change. He told me I look like a work of art. The contrast is staggering. Living through that ordeal taught me a lesson I will never forget. Red flags aren't always giant explosions. Sometimes they are small comments about what you're wearing or who you're talking to that grow until they consume your entire life. It starts with "I prefer you in this," and ends with "you aren't allowed to wear that." It's a slow erosion of your personality until there's nothing left but what they want to see. It's a form of emotional abuse that is often dismissed as just a preference. But it is anything but. If you're in a situation where someone is trying to control how you present yourself to the world, please know that it isn't love, it's a slow-acting poison. You deserve someone who looks at you in your favorite outfit and sees your joy, not their own insecurity. You deserve someone who celebrates your confidence instead of trying to crush it. Never let anyone make you feel small just so they can feel big. You are the architect of your own life and the owner of your own body. Don't let anyone else try to hold the blueprints. I hope my story gives someone else the strength to put on their green dress and walk out the door, even if they have to walk out alone. Like this video if you think I made the right choice to pick my dignity over a toxic man and his timers. Subscribe for more stories like this where we reclaim our power and tell the truth about what goes on behind closed doors. Please share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Have you ever had a partner try to control your appearance or give you an ultimatum over something small? How did you find the courage to leave? Your story might be the one that saves someone else. I'll see you all in the next story.